You know what, James? I might fall from a tall building and I might roll a brand new car because I'm the unknown stuntman that made Twim such a star.
That's impressive.
Mm.
The latest pop culture news with your hosts, James and Matt. Welcome to This Week in Metropolis.
Good evening to one and all, and thank you for joining us this week in Metropolis. And me and Matt are both delighted to be joined by stunt actor Rick English. Rick, thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
No, really appreciate it. And we were just talking backstage about kind of Matt's pre-show ritual where he 5 minutes before, and I'm sure previous guests will know this because they've been in your shoes, Rick, with this now. But Matt, 5 minutes before every show, likes to go for a little tinkle. And Matt actually said, Rick, that he saw, I think in a pre-interview that you done about your pre-harness wheeze that you need to do when you're in the just about to embark on another stunt from one of your many movies.
Yeah, that's when they forget that you're there and leave you hanging upside down in a harness or something for like a couple of hours at a time. So you've got a
couple of hours. Wow.
Anticipate this and go 10-1 we call it. That's the radio speak for so we go 10-1 pre-harness PHP.
Wow. And I feel like this ties in with my day because my son's going on my 6-year-old son's going on a school trip today, and I had to say to him, don't be that kid, George. If you need to go for a wee before you go on this coach journey, go for it beforehand. And he literally said to me, "It's okay, Dad. I needed a poo this morning. Held it in. Brilliant. Held it in all day. Brilliant." So maybe there's a career for him in a stuntman later down the line.
Training now.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We digress on to that sort of crazy chat. But listen, for the viewers, I'm just going to reel off some of the kind of franchises, some of the films that when I was going through your credits, I mean, I'm not going to list them all, Rick, because there is a shit ton of them there. And oh my God, if you're an actor and you're looking at this, I mean, a part of me, I don't know about you, Matt, I think it makes me rather want to be a stunt actor to be involved in all of these films. Marvel, done it. DC, yeah. James Bond, Fast and the Furious, Star Wars, the Bourne movies, Harry Potter. It's not just all action. I mean, Harry Potter's a little bit action. Jurassic Park. There are so many. And listen, absolutely loads more. Kingsman, which I know Matt absolutely loves. I feel really bad to say it. I've never watched any of the Kingsman movies. And my dad absolutely loves them. And he tells me, have you watched the Kingsman movies yet?
You really should. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
The Gentleman, all these sorts of, when I was going through, I was like, oh my God, Red Sparrow. But it's not just the kind of doubling up as an actor. You do the stunt driving as well. There's so many different layers. Tell us and tell the viewers about your kind of your background, where it got started.
It started, funny enough, the little lyric burst that you did before the titles is pretty much where it started.
It was amazing. I love that program.
Yeah, I'm showing how old I am now, you see, by knowing exactly what you were talking about. I did grow up literally watching. That was my favorite program on TV. We were talking about The Fall Guy.
I was about to say that just for anyone who didn't get the reference.
Yeah, so we're talking about The Fall Guy with Lee Majors that used to be on. It was like I think it was like a Saturday evening thing, or it was that kind of thing, wasn't it? When there was only like 3 or 4 channels, and I just thought it looked like the best thing ever. It looked like he had the best lifestyle, and it was like, it wasn't exactly true to life, it turns out, but he was kind of chilling in his trailer or whatever, and then they'd just like knock on the door, and then he'd come out
hot tub at his ranch, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then he'd just come out, do a massive stunt, go back to the trailer, drink whiskey, nice girls and stuff. And there was also a movie in the late 70s with Burt Reynolds. Basically, growing up, Burt Reynolds was anything with Burt Reynolds in was like my favorite movie. And he did a movie called Hooper that apparently not a lot of people know these days, but it was a big movie when like back in the day, and he played a stuntman on there, and there was a lot of famous stuntmen from the 70s and stuff that had all cameos and did all the stunts in that movie. And the same, it was just so cool. It looked like it looked like a great lifestyle and something that I'd really like to do. So I remember writing in my exercise book when I was about 7 or 8 years old at school that was what I wanted to do for a living. I want to be a stuntman, and my parents actually found it. They were clearing out their house a couple of months ago, and they showed it to me, and I was like, oh my god, I need to
Really cool.
take a picture of this. And it was one of those things that then kind of gets put aside. It's a bit like if you tell your teacher you want to be a spaceman, or do you know what I mean? There's no kind of set career path to follow to achieve that. And so I was always doing sports and stuff at school, and I got into martial arts quite heavily and everything. And
I've got a question for that actually, Rick. Is it true that you're trained in Muay Thai, Kung Fu, and kickboxing?
Yeah. I tried to do as much stuff as possible. To be honest, I started with like the white suit stuff when I was young, like the traditional karate stuff. And then I found it hard to, I don't know, it didn't really hold my attention. I liked it, and I carried on with it for a few years. But then later on, I picked up like freestyle kickboxing. And I really got into the competitive aspect of it, as well as the more traditional stuff, and got my black belt in that, and was also training full contact at the time. And so I ended up doing Thai boxing as well. And then Thai boxing kind of became my main martial art after that. And that's what I ended up teaching and continuing on to this day. I still train Thai boxing. Once I got onto the register, then I thought I should learn some more classical weapons stuff just to make myself more versatile. And, so I studied Kung Fu at that time with a guy called Bob Firma, who was former world weapons champion for the forms, like creative forms, where they do all like kata to music kind of thing. So he was very creative with all these different weapons and taught me a lot, actually. And I continued with that as well. And same as anything, I don't think you can ever know too much, if you know what I mean. It's nice to draw from all these different things, and then when you get jobs, you can incorporate whatever fits and whatever styles fit. If you're only experienced in one thing, you've only got one thing to draw from, and everything ends up looking a bit the same. But
and I read that you moved down to London and become a personal trainer for kind of actors and directors and things like that.
Yeah, well, it was just where the gym was that I ended up working in. I moved down to London with a view to being a personal trainer, martial arts instructor, but also I had one eye on getting into movies and stuff. So I still really fancied doing that. But I thought I was going to be like the new Jean-Claude Van Damme. I thought I'd be like an actor who could, do some fighting and star in my own movies and stuff. That was what was in my head. If you move to London, you'll get spotted straight away, and that would be the path that you'll take.
Did you keep doing the splits and things like that?
Yeah, exactly, in front of everybody. But the gym that I ended up working in was in Tottenham Court Road, which is in the West End of London. It was sort of walking distance to Soho and the places where a lot of the production companies are based. And so we would get actors and directors coming to the classes I was teaching and having private sessions with me. And then they started asking me to do bits and pieces of fighting for projects that they had coming up. And so I started doing that. And as soon as I did my first day on set, I was like, okay, this is definitely what I need to do for a living. And so I looked into getting on the British Stunt Register, and then trained to do that with a view to being a full-time stunt performer.
What was your very first job that you
as a stunt performer?
Yeah. Oh well, you mentioned sort of fighting and so on. What was the very first gig that you walked onto that set?
It's the first one I remember. I can't remember if it was actually my first job or not. We did a film which was a BBC film directed by Dom Anciano and Ray Burdis, and I'll remember the name of it in a minute. It was, oh my God, what was it? Love, Honor and Obey is what it was called. And it was like a gangster karaoke fit. Do you know it?
I know. Well, I've got it written down. I've got.
Do you really know?
There you go. Don't see your research.
But actually, I've got that down as that didn't on IMDb. That's where I get my research from. But that had that down as an actor, not as a stunt double or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
well, to be honest, especially at that time in the UK, you weren't allowed to work as a stunt performer unless you were part of the. It was part of Equity at that time, the Equity stunt register. So you had to be a member of Equity, the Actors Union, and then you had to be in that certain branch that was reserved for professional stunt performers. And there's quite strict criteria about joining the British Stunt Register. There still is, which is why it's quite well respected throughout the world, because people know anybody that has got onto the British Stunt Register has fulfilled a certain amount of disciplines and gone through so much training. So at that time, I was employed to play a character on that movie and just do a bit of fighting and play a character called Rick, funnily enough, on that movie. I think I was one of Reese fans, or not John Pertwee. Sean Pertwee's body.
Not Wurzel Gummidge.
Not Wurzel Gummidge's body. I'm not quite old enough to have taken part in the
I'd just love to see John Pertwee in a gangster film. That would be quite a combo, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Sean was quite a good gangster, but yeah, I'm not sure John would.
Not about John. What is the criterion? And you mentioned there's sort of quite a strict criteria. Is there a checklist almost that you have to meet to register?
Yeah, literally, if you want to get onto the British Stunt Register, I'm not sure exactly what it is now. Obviously, I've been on the register 23 years now or so. So it's basically across 6 different sporting disciplines, and you have to train in each of them and achieve a standard equivalent to kind of a black belt for martial arts. Wow. So and they have to be across different areas of work as well. They can't all be, you couldn't be like 6 martial arts. It would have to be across martial arts and then strength and agility, which might include climbing or gymnastics, or riding and driving, which would include horses, cars, motorcycles, and they have to be spread across those different disciplines. And to be honest, it's one of those things that it really takes a lot of commitment, but also you tend to find that the kind of people that want to be stunt performers enjoy every aspect of their training. You know, for me, I was training, 3 or 4 different disciplines a day a lot of the time, but I loved all of it, and I kept most of it going. As soon as I got onto the stunt register, that wasn't the end of my training. That was almost the start of my training. I've done what I need to do now, and now I'm going to do what I think I need to make my job better and easier, and make myself more employable.
The interesting thing, I mean, I've seen some pictures from sets that you've shared on Instagram and things like that, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit more, but me and Matt, huge Batman fans, and you've been in, not only have you been in the recent The Batman starring Robert Pattinson, but you were also in the Christopher Nolan trilogy as well. But some of the pictures I remember seeing there was kind of 3, 4, 5 different stunt people as Batman, and I think the question I was going to have is, are you just all doing different bits, or is that quite common? Because
not in the Batman movies. I think maybe the picture you saw, we were playing the League of Shadows guys who had like urban ninja costumes and stuff on. There's a picture I think shared from Batman Begins with Christian Bale in the middle, and it's literally the kind of fight team around him, and we're all dressed in black, basically. So it probably looks like we're all Batman. But
at the beginning, The Dark Knight, that scene where people have started imitating him.
Oh, that stuff. Yeah, that was done in the States, and so I wasn't actually any part of that. But
sure.
But going back to your like where your question was headed, most movies there will be more than one double for a character, or for each character. That the main reason being that most movies are shot with a main unit and a second unit. So the main unit is usually concerned with most of the acting beats and have the main cast on there, and then the second unit are picking up stuff that doesn't require the main actors most of the time. So it'll be the car chase, the bike chase, the fight, the insert shots and parts where you don't need to see the main actors. Then there'll be a whole sort of separate crew almost shooting those parts.
No, the reason I asked that, Rick, is because I was just thinking, are there, just looking at your credits,
Yeah.
there must be other stunt doubles going, for fuck's sake, Rick's got it again. It's literally like huge movie after huge movie. And I just wondered whether they're and that's why I kind of assumed that, like you said, you would have kind of more than one.
Yeah, there are more than one guy on there. And with something like Batman, or any movie, sometimes it happens a lot more. What used to happen certainly in the 70s, and when there were a much smaller group of stunt performers, was that everyone was a lot more versatile, and you would be brought into a movie as a character's double, basically. And if the character has to ride a motorcycle, you're riding the motorcycle. If the character has to do a fight, you're doing the fight. If he has to jump off a cliff, you're jumping off a cliff. These days, I think expectations and the what's needed in each part of that, people are so much more used to, through YouTube and social media and everything else, seeing people who are highly skilled in these areas, and to then just put a stuntman who was slightly above average in all of those things in, and expect him to to impress the audience, they probably wouldn't cut it these days. So a lot of times there'll be a lot more specialists in these days. If there's something, if a guy has to do a motorcycle backflip or something, there'll be a guy that comes in that's not a stuntman, but that's a guy that specializes particularly in that will come in and be the double for that day or whatever, for that one sequence or that one gag and whatever. And it happens a little bit more like that now.
You mentioning about kind of back in the 70s and 80s when there would have been kind of one. I don't know about you, Matt. That just makes me think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
that's what sprung to mind actually when you said.
That's a great movie. It looks like such a great time as well. That whole maybe not the end, but the working part. And
James and I saw that in the cinema, and we were so pumped to see it.
Yeah.
I remember we just watching all this film and thinking, not really anything's happened. And then that last,
just at the end,
5 minutes, like, my God, like, what?
That's pretty crazy. But to be honest, the rest of the film's it's just cool. I just think it's got a cool kind of energy and vibe to it. Anything that's a little bit retro and 70s like that with a cool character like Brad Pitt portrayed in there is, it's really my cup of tea. I really liked it. I enjoyed that movie. Plus, it's got Margot Robbie in it, and she's
always
all right. Well, you mentioned Brad Pitt there. Actually, like he's someone I know you've kind of doubled as in previous films.
I guess World War Z, I think was which is a few years ago now.
My question kind of linked to that is, how difficult is it to get into a particular kind of shape? How much preparation time do you have to get into a look or a shape, depending on, I mean, I can't imagine you're going to be playing someone who's humongous.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a when I say I'm part of the British Stunt Register, there is actually a physical book as well, a physical register, and people tend to think of you as however you appear in there, because there's a headshot, a full body shot, and a couple of action shots in there, and also your sizes are listed in there. So people wouldn't choose a double if they were massively different in the book to what they needed for an actor. So everyone's always in pretty good shape, because we're training and keeping up our skills anyway. And so people have an idea of the kind of size that you're at. But I remember when I first went for a meeting with that one, I was chatting to the costume guys, and I because I know Brad Pitt goes up and down. I'm like, what's Brad looking like these days? This is back in 2011, I want to say, maybe about 12 years ago. And I said, what's Brad looking like at the minute? I said, is he like Troy shape, or is he more like Fight Club?
Fight Club,
yeah. And they said, oh no, they said he's smaller than Fight Club.
Wow.
And so because he was playing obviously a journalist in there, and then part of it was meant to be during this whole zombie thing, and everyone's meant to be a bit emaciated, and food's not that common anymore. It's not that easy to come by, and so
quite lean.
It was quite lean, let's say. So I think I went down. I don't know. I think I was probably about just under 13 stone at the time, which is about where I usually am. And then I think I dropped down to about 11.4, 11.5 or something. during prep and during filming, just to make sure I was a good match for Brad, because he trains really hard and works really hard on what he wants to look like. So, you know, we owe it to the actors when we're portraying their physical, kind of the physical side of their characters to do the same and to make it as good as possible.
That must have quite an impact on you, though, having to drop
Yeah.
to a lot lower than what you are, and then to still put out what you do in the stunts.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just had to kind of adapt my training a lot. I dropped a lot of weight training out of it so that I lost a lot of sort of shoulder size and stuff. But then even when you're keeping up Thai boxing and stuff like that, you find that your shoulders suddenly blow up and like, oh my God. Yeah, it is quite difficult. But yeah, like I say, the actors are doing the same. They're doing physical training and stuff as well for their roles, and doing fight rehearsals, same as we are, and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, we all just kind of just get through it and just make it work.
With sort of mentioning the actors, and sort of you hear quite often, Tom Cruise loves doing all his own stunts and things like that. Are there any conversations where, I know, saying the director says, we need a professional to do it, and the actor is saying, "Oh no, I can do that. That's not a problem." Yeah.
Always. Yeah, it's a difficult conversation sometimes, because some actors are super fine with it and understand that it's not necessarily about ability a lot of the time. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a skill-based thing that they need to be doubled for. Other times it's just that if we don't need them to do it, then why would you take a risk with the actor? Yeah. It could be anything. It could be jumping off a 4-foot wall. If I roll my ankle or break my ankle, there's another me there in an hour's time. Literally, somebody's putting your costume on as you're on the way to the hospital. Totally replaceable. The film carries on and it's all good. If that's the lead actor, that's just happened to you, that's a massive problem. That's a multi-million-dollar problem. That's a lot of people out of work, and a lot, you know, there's big repercussions for that. And so the producers, usually quite rightly so, are wary of how much the actor needs to do. Saying that, on the Mission Impossible franchise, Tom is probably the main producer, and so Tom says, I'm jumping out the plane, then Tom's jumping out the plane, and
it's quite well documented, isn't it, with Tom Cruise? I know he's had some serious injuries. I know there was that one where he jumped from one building to the other, didn't he, and done all his.
It's just one of those things. Like I say, if it happened to a stunt guy, it would just be, you know, nobody would give it a second thought, because you know, it doesn't impact on the movie getting produced at all, but it did hold them up for a few weeks there, you know. And it's just the risk you take. But to be honest, for the amount of stuff that he does, he's got away pretty well, and there's a good team. I've worked on, you know, quite a few of the missions. I used to be with that team quite a bit, and it's Wade Eastwood who's been running the stunts on there for quite a while, and he's very good at keeping Tom safe, and everything's prepped and tested, and you just eliminate as many of the risks as you can. You can't fully eliminate it, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be the same thing.
It would be a stunt.
It wouldn't be exciting.
It's like anything, like watching motorcycle racing for me as well. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but just the fact that somebody could get hurt really adds to the kind of excitement of watching the whole thing, I think.
I did see an interview where you was talking about the Mission Impossible stunt on the motorbike, and you was watching I can't remember, it's sort of motorbike racing of some sort, and saw a really nasty crash and thought, I'm going to do that. Which is such an odd thing, isn't it?
That was the conversation, because myself, Wade, and the second year director on that chase, who was Greg Smurs, American coordinator, we're all big MotoGP fans, and we're all watching it at the weekend, and we knew there was a big motorcycle chase in that. It was all going to be sports bike based, and you know, you don't get to do it that often, these kind of racetrack type bikes and racetrack type speeds. So we saw this huge crash that was just captured perfectly by one of the camera guys, and I got flicked over the bars, and he was okay, but he didn't half come down, and the bike goes tumbling off and everything. And it's just something a little bit different and a bit more exciting than a lot of times it'll be a standard low side crash that gets rid of one of the baddies or something, where literally the bike will just slip out from underneath him and he'll slide down the road. So we thought if we can make something a bit more violent and a bit, a bit more standout, and then it'd be cool. It'd add to the movie for sure.
I actually saw a clip the other day. It was weird because I was at work and scrolling through LinkedIn, and someone had shared it, and I don't know what relevance this has to LinkedIn business. Me and Matt work in recruitment, so I don't know how this. But it was something about resilience or something like that. So maybe that was the link. But it was from a MotoGP race, and this bike, like you said, went under the driver. He kind of rolled. I feel like, is it kind of standard that you kind of bring your arms into roll with it? Next thing you know, the guy he got up, jumped the barrier, ran down to the pit lane. They had a bike waiting for him. He was back out again.
Yeah. Mark Marquez in qualify. He did it again at the weekend, actually. Yeah, that's the first thing that happens when you see these guys crash, is that they look for the bike, see if they can pick it back up. Sometimes they find there's one half of it over there and one half over there, so they kind of leave that and then try and get a lift either back on the scooter or sprint back to the pits and get the spare bike and jump straight on. Yeah, it's a different breed, those guys. It's literally my favorite sport to watch, to be fair.
Looking at the list of your movies, and James listed all the big sort of action ones, the ones that surprised me are things like Mamma Mia, for example, that's on there. And it's not, when you you think of stunts, you think of these big sort of action films.
Yeah.
How do stunts fit into films like that? I think Bridget Jones as well was on there. And what are the elements that require your services?
Yeah, it's things that you wouldn't really class as a stunt, as an outsider looking in kind of thing. You probably would go, why the hell have they got stunt guys on there? I mean, Mamma Mia, it's a shame actually. We had a really nice sequence on there. I doubled for Stellan Skarsgård on there, who's one of the 3 potential dads. What's funny actually is that in my career I've doubled for all 3 of those guys at one point or another. Each of the 3 potential dads or whatever. I've honestly never actually seen the film. I know the gist.
No, I've never watched it either.
I've ended up filming each one of those guys, and they're all amazing. But I doubled Stellan Skarsgård on there, and it was basically, I think he was meant to be in Turkey or something like that, and he's you first see him and he's on a motorcycle, and then he's buying a carpet or something, and then he like rides up to the harbor and then jumps on the boat from there. Well, we had a whole sequence. It was like an Indiana Jones type thing. So we filmed the first half in Morocco, and I had to literally ride this motorcycle. I think it was a Yamaha XT500. I had to ride this motorcycle in a big sun hat and sunglasses and everything through the Medina Square in Marrakesh. I don't know if you've ever been to Marrakesh, but it's
I've been there.
It's the most hectic place. It wasn't locked off. It was just open with traders and snake charmers and guys trying to put a monkey on your shoulder.
Put a monkey on you,
It was literally riding along there. They said, just ride diagonally from one side to the other as fast as you can, and we'll just film it from up on one of the I think everybody in the whole square wanted to kill me by the end of filming. But anyway, we did that part. Then we went to Greece. I think we were at one of the Greek islands. We went to film the second part of the chase up to the docks. And it was a whole thing where we went through the dockyard, and it was like a pallet getting lowered on a crane, and we had to just go underneath it, and it would slam behind us, and then a car pulling out, we had to swerve around it, and a truck pulling out and underneath, and all this kind of sort of little running the gauntlet kind of deal. And then as we got to the end of the pier, I literally slid the bike to a stop, jumped, grabbed a rope, swung, and onto the boat. And so it was a really cool sequence. I think it got completely decimated in the final edit. They obviously decided it was a bit gratuitous, a bit crazy. But a lot
what
of the
it
guys
probably was.
What's
they
that?
probably couldn't think of an ABBA song that they could put to it. So they thought, no, we're not getting any royalties. We'll leave that out.
No, I can't think of one either. I'm not listening to anything. But a lot of the guys on there were doing stuff like, there was a lot of stuff going on rooftops and swinging on ropes during certain songs and that. So that's what a lot of the guys were doing. The same on Mamma Mia too. I think guys were doing flips off of the boat.
Second one?
They did a second one. I didn't work on it. It was a different stunt coordinator and everything. But But yeah, a bunch of the guys went out to work on that. And anywhere where there's something slightly hazardous, like even if they were filming a boat and they need somebody at the top of the mast or something, you know, in the crow's nest or something like that, they'll put a stunt guy in there. You just need somebody sensible that you've worked with before, that's accustomed to the safety procedures and everything that's got to take place. Because that's the thing, as a stunt performer, you're not only responsible for yourself, you're responsible for the safety of everybody on set. You know, if I'm crashing a bike, then we have to make sure there's nobody else going to get hurt. It's one thing, make sure I don't get hurt. We've got to make sure there's no camera people, no extras, no background, nobody in the way of anything hazardous, you know, anything that could hurt anybody. So
we've had a couple of questions coming in. One of them is one that I was keen to ask as well, but friend of the show and last week's guest, actually, who kindly joined us, was Highland G. He wants to know, what's your favourite stunt that you had input into, how it played out, and what aspects did you add?
That's a good question, actually. We almost answered that with the Mission Impossible bike high side kind of thing, really. It's it happens a few times like that the coordinators will come up with. A lot of the time, I think people don't realize how much input the second unit director or stunt coordinator have into how a sequence comes out, certainly fight sequences and stuff like that as well. Sometimes on the script, all the stunt coordinator or second unit director will receive on the script, he'll just say the two fight or something, or the guys fight ensues, you know, and so
fight ensues.
Fight ensues. That's the direction, yeah. And obviously there'll have been meetings and stuff, and we will, you know, it will have been decided exactly what has to happen in that, and which guy has to win, and that they want this moment of jeopardy, or they want this guy to be on top, or he has to lose his gun at some point, and blah blah blah. There'll be certain story points that have to be in there, but yeah, it is nice when. Because we're involved in that process from quite early on. We'll usually these days shoot a previs, they'll call it a pre-visualization, which is literally shooting the movie before we shoot the movie, or a version of, just on you know, handheld cameras and stuff between the stunt guys. A lot of the times, if you've ever seen any of these previews on social media that the guys have shared once the movie's out, then you'll see a lot of cardboard boxes all around. Everyone always builds the sets out of cardboard boxes, because you kind of paint it out in tape on the floor, and then you'll stack boxes to make the right dimensions for the room and everything. You don't want to choreograph a fight that takes place in a massive room with 50 guys and turn up on set and it's like a shoebox to fight in, you know. So and at that stage, that's when we can say, hey, I could you know, the guy could take my legs out and I could land on my back and do this and go down the stairs or whatever, and that's what kind of happens. But I think yeah, I guess the Mission one was a stunt that I'd always wanted to do, really, was kind of high side a bike, a sports bike at a fairly decent speed. And
I guess link to
how fast was that you
85 Ks it was.
Wow.
Which is 54 miles an hour, 50 something miles an hour, which it doesn't sound that quick, especially when you see the MotoGP boys going down. But if you were to drive down the road in your car and open the door at that speed and have a look at jumping out
and jump out,
you definitely hesitate. I'm
going to write that on my to-do list tomorrow on the way to work.
Please don't anybody do that. Please don't.
I guess linked to that question, Rick, how much interaction, you know, when you're doing all that sort of choreography of a stunt and things like that, how much interaction does the person you're doubling as, or the main star of the movie, have? Do you have quite a lot of interaction with them?
Yeah, I like to. I always said this to Rob on the Batman, was anytime we were working stuff out and working out some fight beats or whatever, then along with the fight coordinator and the stunt coordinator, we'd all be there having discussions and stuff. But I always said to Rob that it's your character, so you watch what we're doing. And if you think I don't want to stamp on the guy's head at the end, you know, it's his character at the end of the day. And so everything we do, we can put forward our interpretation of what it is, but at the end of the day, it has to fit with his vision for how that character is going to be portrayed. And I thought it worked particularly well in the Batman, and everything was quite kind of brutal violence, which is the way that Rob wanted it. We also wanted some technical stuff in there, and Rob Alonso, who was the the second unit director on there, is very experienced in the sort of Filipino martial arts and JKD and a lot of technical fighting kind of stuff. And so between the two things, with that incorporated with Thai boxing techniques and stuff, you could show that the character was trained, but also that he was, you know, had this kind of savage edge to everything that he was doing, and brutal edge to it. And I thought it worked pretty well, and Rob did a great job, and it seemed to fit in with what he wanted for the character. So
you could almost feel, I find in that film, you could almost feel the punches, like watching it. It was really like almost a thud. You could feel them hit. And I love the scene when he comes up in the elevator, and it's almost like a strobe effect when you see him fighting towards the end.
That's funny. That was such a challenging sequence, I've got to be honest. The only thing illuminating any of the characters, the thugs and the Batman in that sequence, was muzzle flash. There was literally no external lights, no cheating with anything. So it was, I don't even know if we'd be allowed to do it these days. Actually, there were blank firing weapons up, obviously, but such close proximity to other performers with fully automatic blank firing weapons, and after obviously the tragic accidents that have happened the last couple of years, I don't know if we'd be allowed to actually do that anymore. We'd have to find. They do have things these days like LED guns, which emit muzzle flash, but without a charge and without any explosive kind of stuff. But it was one of those things where we had to rehearse it and go through it with the armorer and the coordinator and all the performers, and you had to show exactly where each weapon would be at each gunshot. And so I would pull the guy's arm across, and it would be bang, 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 bang. You had to look where every person was, and which direction it was pointing, which direction the shells would be ejected from. And we did that for every single move of that whole fight sequence. And then just before we were about to go, we'd have another rehearsal in the at full speed with the lights still on. And then literally I would find where the guy's gun was or whatever, and then they would turn the lights off, and it was pitch black. Now you literally couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And then again, I would find the guy's gun, rehearse my first move. Guy's gun's here. Okay, 3, 2, 1, action. Boom, grab the gun. He fires. Pop, 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 and we'd go through it all like that. But it was really challenging, and I just thought it was something a bit different when it came out. I especially liked the way they put it in the trailer, because it had like a real kind of beaty soundtrack and stuff with it, kind of punctuating the soundtrack in the trailer there. And I was really pleased the way it came out. It was only a short thing, but it only needed to be. I think it just told the story in a slightly different way to just jumping out of the elevator and then bashing a few guys up kind of thing. So that was good, nice and different.
Rick, you saying all this stuff just kind of blows my mind. I'm sure Matt is the same. You just think, wow, you don't realize all of this stuff that probably goes into it, in the detail that you said. Do you sometimes have to take a bit of a step back and go, oh my God, I was
that's me. Yeah.
A bit of a pinch me sort of moment.
Yeah, it is. And it's at the weirdest times as well that you'll do that. Because you don't realize, and you end up just so engrossed into what you're doing and just concentrating so much on what you're doing. And then, you'll be hungry and you'll be thinking, what time's lunch, or what time am I getting out of here? And you don't realize that you're sat on the steps of the Millennium Falcon or something, moaning about what time you want to go home. And you don't realize how many people would kill for a glimpse at what you're doing right now, or to be in part of that world. And you do have to sit back and think how fortunate we are to have found something that I really like doing, and to be able to have made a career out of it. But it is the weirdest thing sometimes, even if you just go 10-1 or pre-harness P and just catch a look at yourself in the mirror or something, and it's the Batman costume or Ghost Rider, whatever it is, one of these, and you think, wow, I'm really I'm really doing this now. And it's it is very cool if you actually take the time to sit back and look at it. But I don't think we do often enough at all.
No, it's probably something that you'll look back on at the end of your once you decide. As a stunt actor, is there a time when you think, my body can't take this anymore? Sports athletes, they get to a certain age, depending on what the sport is, where they go, that I'm done now. My body can't keep up with this. But
Yeah,
then,
definitely.
in a sense, is there kind of different types? I mean, we've mentioned Mamma Mia, but I guess a stunt is a stunt, isn't it?
I can only do Mamma Mia 3 now. That's out the window.
Headline news. Yeah.
I'm having too much
or
fun.
you'll be in Casualty as
Yeah.
old man number 4,
Oh,
who's falling down the stairs or something like that.
believe me, I've done all sorts of that kind of stuff. I actually enjoy doing those days. It's just as much fun, and it's exactly the same feeling going and doing a day on Casualty or the bill. It always used to be when I first got on the
I love the bill.
day on the bill or a couple of days on the bill. It's great. It's just great fun, and all those shows always are, and they're so appreciative of everything that you do as well. I really like doing those in between the runs on movies, but there's pros and cons to both. I'm trying to think what the original question was. I got sidetracked.
Is there a longevity?
Longevity to the career? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there definitely is. To be honest, most of the guys that I came through with are now sort of looking at coordinating and assistant coordinator and stuff. So they're more pointing at the guys where to fall and pointing at where they want him to fly and stuff. Whereas I can't leave it. I got into this to perform, and I'm going to just carry on as long as I can. I think you have to be a bit sensible later on. Right now, there's nothing that I wouldn't do now that I was doing 23 years ago. It's still, if someone called me to get hit by a car, fall downstairs, brilliant. Honestly,
I love it.
I do love it. I promise you. And the harder, the better. The more of a challenge, the better for me.
Is there anything you'd say absolutely not to if they offered it to you?
Yeah, the only time I would say not to stuff is if it's something that was super specialist. If there was like a 120-foot cliff dive, they've got Red Bull guys that do that stuff. There's guys on the stunt register that have come from that background of doing that. There's better guys that can do that. Not many of the stunt guys would turn down opportunities, but also you've got to choose the best person for the job, to be honest. And so only in that kind of respect, really. Everything else comes down to just technique, and as long as you've got the experience to pull it off and keep yourself and everyone safe, then I don't think there's many guys that would say no to anything that they have the capabilities of doing. It's just, if it was a horse riding job, for example, I wouldn't take it. I haven't ridden a horse for 10 years. I think it's not my bag. I'm not big into horses. I can ride just about, probably, but why use me when there's so many talented guys out there who've literally been riding since they were 2 years old and riding every day, same as I do with the motorcycles. I've been riding since I was little, and literally I ride every day. And so I would be more likely to be asked to do something like that.
I actually done a skydive for the first time last year, so count me in.
That's
if there's any jumps that you don't want to do,
exactly, yeah, that's
I'm your guy. As long as there's another guy attached to me, or female.
Never know. Tom Cruise might need a passenger next time.
You never know.
No.
Now, I appreciate. Usually, about this point, we would move on to the anniversary spread, but there's some questions coming in.
Yeah.
Are you happy for us to go through a couple of them, Rick?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well, one that I saw on there from our good friend Shane at Dawn of Comics. He said he watched Fast X this week, which Matt is a huge Fast and Furious fan.
I must admit, every film that comes out, I become less of a fan. Starting at the beginning, awesome. It's waning a little bit now.
They've definitely changed for sure.
Yeah, but Shane says Rick must have had some fun doing some of them insane stunts on the Fast films.
To be honest, I didn't do that much on the last. I'm trying to think which one, whether it was 10 or not. I'm so confused. I don't think I actually
say 9. I think
according to IMDb, you did do Fast X, which was the last one.
Oh, I did. What am I talking about? I'm so confused. I haven't had time to watch any. I don't think I've seen any of them since number 8. I think was the last one I saw, or 7.5. I don't know, one of those. But yeah, a lot of the time those things are either filmed in the States or I think one of them that we did was filmed in like Hawaii and stuff, some parts of it or something like that. And so a lot of the time, some of the prep, what happened was that we ended up prepping a lot of the vehicles in the UK and rehearsing a bunch of stuff so that it was all ready to go for the guys when they went out there. Cool. So I didn't actually do that much on screen on some of those movies. We did a lot more on ones like number 6 that was filmed in London and stuff. So yeah, they're always good to work on, to be honest. It's a bit the same as working on like Michael Bay movies. You know, it's not going to be like necessarily a groundbreaking piece of cinema in terms of storyline and changing people's lives and stuff, but you know you're going to be doing big action,
Totally entertaining.
Gratuitous action and explosions and crashes and all that kind of thing. So they are great to work on. You always get to get to have a play with some nice automobiles and stuff. But yeah, it's more of an American franchise, the Fast franchises, and so I say we have done bits and pieces on the last few over here, but more in terms of prepping stuff for going abroad and stuff. So
okay, and we've
got so much. Sorry, James, just a question that came to mind. Thinking of those films, and there's lots of sort of CGI, I guess, in those sort of films as well. Looking at the insanity of some of the action. How does have you been on many sets where it is there's a lot of green screen, and sort of how does that affect your, what you've said about so far? It seemed like quite a lot of practical. Yeah, you're in an environment and you're doing that thing. Whereas if you're in a green screen but you still have to do a stunt, how does that change the mood?
Yeah, it's a good question. Sometimes you'll have to get warned by the coordinator or by somebody that you've just stepped somewhere that you shouldn't have stepped, or you can't go that far because there's this monster there, or whatever it is.
That green box is a monster.
Yeah, I'll tell you what was really interesting. We did a film called Jupiter Ascending. It was a Wachowski movie back in, I don't know when that was, 2012.
I know it.
And and they had a lot of CGI characters in that, and it was technology that I'd seen for the first time on there, really, where we had a monitor there, and usually the person portraying the CGI character will be wearing like a mocap suit. You'll see the sort of grey suits with the tracking markers all over and stuff. So there'd be a performer wearing that, and then they'd be interacting with obviously the real actors or the real characters. And we had a monitor at the side, and you could look at that and you could see in real time what the creature is actually going to look like on the screen. Wow. And it was pretty crazy. So you could tell the distance that you had to keep because he had a big head or a big,
makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, and that was pretty crazy. And we had a lot of that kind of stuff on Men in Black 4 as well. There was the same sort of thing where we'd have things to portray the size of certain characters. I think I had to dive off a balcony or something and grab onto another character, and we had like a big green sausage thing like a big green punch bag kind of thing representing the other character. And so you didn't obviously put your arms through the character or anything. And it's things like that you just have to really sort of suspend your disbelief and just go with it and just act like it is the character there and everything. And it has changed a little bit in that respect. People have always said recently that our job was going to go away because of CG and stuff. They won't need stunt guys anymore, but I think people can still tell, and I think people still like the jeopardy that we were talking about. If you roll a car off a hill with nobody in it, that's a different thing to if you've got a guy in there strapped in with a cage who's driving that thing off of there and really putting it on the line for the movie. And I think people appreciate it. Same as with Jackie Chan movies, everyone liked watching the outtakes and seeing what went into those sequences and how it can all go wrong and how he's on the edge. And so I think it's good that we keep that. And a lot of the CG actually helps us these days. You can get away with elements of safety that they can then take out afterwards. They can remove wires or pads or soft pieces or whatever you need to put in there to keep people safe, and then they can remove that afterwards in post with the computer generated imagery. So
couple of quick fire questions. Connie has asked us, what is your favorite project or best experience that you've ever had worked on? Has there been one that stood out to you still today that you go, if that was the one that I just enjoyed the most?
Yeah, there's so many. I always think when I'm on jobs, I'm always like, okay, this is the one now. This is everything, and then something else will come along, and I'm like, oh man, this is so cool. And Mission 5 was a great job for us. Like say, working with these amazing motorcycle riders that I'd looked up to as professional riders, and then we got to become friends. And same with the drivers that we had on there, a lot of professional drivers on there and world champions and everything, and we're all good friends now, and we all hang out. And that was a real dream job, going to the racetrack every day, rehearsing, and rehearsing with Tom, and just putting so much time on the bikes, and then going over and actually filming that stuff in the Atlas Mountains was just crazy. That was great. I did Ghost Rider 2 back in 2010. And again, that was a dream job for me. A character that I loved Nick Cage, everything about
What's
it.
What's he like? Did you get to meet him and everything?
Cool. Oh yeah, we hung out quite a bit. He's
incredible.
Absolutely, just exactly as you would imagine. Amazing, just way too cool. Just
I love the Ghost Rider films. I think they're great.
It didn't get the best kind of press and stuff.
They tend to be the ones that me and Matt like the most, the ones that didn't get the best reviews.
It's very true.
It was one of the best experiences for me, though. I mean, because I like to do a variety of stuff. Although these days a lot of people know me more for motorcycle stuff. I love bikes, don't get me wrong, but my background was in fighting and motorcycles and driving and all this stuff. And anytime that I get to do a bit of everything, then that's a great job for me. And Ghost Rider was like that for me. I got to do a bit of everything, and I loved it. And the same with the Batman. Got to ride the bike, drive the car, do the fights, the explosions, the wire work, all of this stuff. And it made it feel like a complete kind of job for me. It had a bit of everything. It's almost like 5 jobs in one, and that's what I really enjoy. So, and then the Kingsman that you were talking about before, I know you haven't seen it there, James, but the Kingsman movies are a lot of fun because, again, you're doing something different. You feel like this isn't just the run-of-the-mill stuff that we're doing before. The fight sequences that we did were all pretty innovative. Same with when we did Inception. We knew we were doing something slightly different, especially because we didn't really understand what was going on in the story. And so
watching the film really
dream within a dream within a dream.
We didn't understand it when we got our pages of the script, and still didn't understand it when I saw the movie. But it was a great movie to be part of, and again, we did different stuff in there. Fighting in different environments, and a weightless environment, and the rotating corridor stuff, and all that. Just doing that stuff was just amazing. Looking back on it, at the time, you don't appreciate stuff like we were talking about before. But I've had some amazing times, and I've been really lucky to work on all those things.
We've talked about all the amazing times. Highland G wants to know about the worst times. He wants to know what's the worst injury and how long did it take to recover, which I imagine is I don't want to say too frequent because you're trained at what you do, but it can happen.
It does happen, a lot. But to be honest, the injuries that you get are not what people would expect. I think I consider stunt guys to be similar to athletes, similar to professional athletes, and we end up with the same injuries. You'll twist knees, twist ankles, soft tissue injuries, overuse injuries, stuff like that. A lot of cuts and bruises. Obviously, I've had stitches God knows how many times, and I used to a few of the performers always said that I had a magnetic head because anything going anywhere would hit me in the head and just bust my head open. Every drop somewhere at one point or another would end up with a busted open head. So there's all that kind of thing. The bigger, more serious injuries are a lot more rare, to be honest, and they don't tend to happen actually on set. It tends to be either in rehearsal or when you're rehearsing your own skills. A lot of my motorcycling based injuries have been when I've been pushing myself in practice, myself practicing my own skills and learning something new and pushing harder and faster and further than before, and that's when it'll bite you, and you'll end up with injuries. But I don't tend to break a lot of bones, to be honest. I've done
don't say that, Rick, not now.
I do other stuff, don't get me wrong, but it's always for motorcyclists, especially when the motorcycle injuries, it's always knees or wrists or collarbone type, shoulder injuries and stuff, and the same doing crashes. If you crash in a motorcycle into something, it's rare that you'll get away completely unscathed. And also, if you crash in and go into the ground, it's very rare you'll get away completely unscathed. Usually a bit of road rash, because you've done it so many times that you know the areas to protect, and you know how to protect yourself and what to loosen on the bike and what to protect in the environment to make sure that it's as safe as possible. And that goes for the whole job. All you can do is use your experience to make everything as safe as it can be, but it can never be 100% safe. But I've been all right with injuries, to be honest. I've had the same as everyone else: knee ligaments, shoulders, wrists, stuff, a lot of stitches, a lot of cuts and bruises, some big bruises.
Well, stay safe, Rick. That's what we're saying. Stay safe, because you're incredible at what you do.
I've got one final question. What is the best souvenir you have had from any of the shoes?
Oh, I don't know if I can tell you.
I was going to say official or unofficial.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're allowed to take like prop home and things like that. I've got the full Batman costume.
Yeah.
I wish. I think everyone thinks that I did. All stuff like that is so closely guarded by Warner Brothers or Harry Potter or whoever. I remember when we did Harry Potter 4. I think it was Harry Potter 4, one of the Harry Potters, and we were playing Death Eaters, and we had these crazy silver, like, metallic masks that we wore, and they were worth insane amounts of money. Well, they're irreplaceable, to be honest, once they've been in the movie especially. And they used to get on set, as soon as you finished on set and you walked off the set, there was literally someone there to take them, lock them in this special vault kind of thing that they had. And the same with your wands. You used to have to sign your wand back into the armorer, and then they would put it away, lock it away in the case. So those things didn't go missing. No, I don't like, to be honest, I don't deal with stress very well in terms of, I would always be looking over my shoulder if I thought I'd stolen something.
Yeah.
And so, to be honest, I have got a few things that people have given me. I've got a helmet from that I did a crash in that didn't actually make the edit in Ghost Rider, and the director signed the visor for that for me. Both the directors, Neville Dean and Taylor, signed that for me, and so I've got that in the cabinet here. I've also got the helmet that I crashed on in Mission Impossible 5 in here, signed by Tom as well. A very cool thing to have. And I have a replica of the cowl from the Batman that a very kind gentleman over in, I think he's based in Mexico, that makes costumes and stuff, sent to me. And it's such an exact replica that, honestly, if you handed it to me on set, I would just put it on without realizing. Yeah, it's so good. And that's just nice, again, to have in my office and stuff. I like stuff like that. I used to always collect bits of motorcycle as well. Every time I'd done a crash, I'd have, like, in fact, I've got a clutch lever from the bike on Ghost Rider as well, which is kind of special because it's kind of decorated by art department to have all this molten kind of metal and stuff
nice.
And it snapped off when I crashed the bike, and so I have that.
Put that in your pocket. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. One last question from me. Yeah. We actually had, probably 3 weeks ago now, we had the UK Foo Fighters on the show, who obviously they are the biggest cover band of the Foo Fighters in the UK, and we're lucky enough to go and see them at the end of this year. We're going. We asked them if we were going to be, if they were to compare us to another artist of thoughts, they guessed who we would be. I want to ask you, Rick, who would we be good doubles for in the world of acting?
Good question.
And
you can be as impolite as you want.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, it could be Jason Statham. Let me see.
Be kind. Be kind.
I'm trying to think. I'm so terrible at looky likeys. We do it at work all the time. Thinking of doubles for people. Let me say you can be Sean Bean, actually, maybe. Younger Sean Bean. Sean Bean. That. And then I don't know, you do remind me of somebody, Matt, actually. I'm trying to think who
Billy Zane.
That's not
Billy Zane wouldn't be a bad one now, would it?
Yeah, we'll go with that because I can't think off the top of my head. I'm so terrible at thinking about it.
Well, listen, I feel, and I know Matt will agree, but we appreciate your time is valuable, so you need your sleep as well. But we could talk to you for ages, Rick. Honestly, there's so many films that we haven't even touched upon, which are huge films. But also, again, with kind of the stunt driving as well, which is another whole kind of area, which is a specialism. So we'd love to have you back on the show.
Yeah,
later when, like Matt said, late in years to come, when it's all kind of come to an end.
Yeah, no, don't worry.
We're still going. Not your life, obviously. We hope that's still going strong. But
yeah, when Ricky's fat and drunk, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Have you got time, Rick, for a quick game of Anniversary Spread?
Of course I have. Yeah. What do you need? Yeah, 100%.
Well, let's run the video.
Anniversary Spread.
That's right, the dulcet tones of our friend James T. Keegan there. Everyone knows the rules to the game. I've explained to Rick pre-game. Connie. Sorry, I've just seen Connie in the comments for Matt's doppelganger here.
I was actually
Harry Hill.
I appeared on the Harry Hill show, actually. I didn't double Harry, though. I doubled Jean-Claude Van Damme fighting Harry Hill.
Oh, my God.
That was your dream then, wasn't it? Because you said you wanted to be Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Exactly.
Wow.
Full circle.
Yeah, now I ended up on Harry Hill. There you go.
Oh, sorry. Connie has just apologised. It was actually Peter that said it first. Comments. Anyway, we move on. As you know, we've got 5 things that are celebrating their anniversary today on the 20th of June. It's still the 20th of June. We've only got a couple of hours left, but it's fine. These guys, Matt versus Ricky, on this, and it will be who is closest to the year over the 5 things. So because we've got Rick English on the show, we have got 5 movies. There was a ton of movies on this date that I could have picked from, but I've picked some absolute belters here.
Oh, no.
Rick, as you are the guest, you get to go first.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but
I don't know if it is or not. I could have just copied his answer and then I wouldn't have been a million miles away, I think.
We're going with it. So we're kicking off with you, Rick. So you've got to guess what year this film came out in.
Okay.
It's one, I'm sure you'll know it. Batman and Robin came out on this day.
Right. So let me think. I'm going to say Batman and Robin was...
If you're watching the show, please get your guesses in the chat.
I'm going to say 94.
Okay. Matt?
I think you're very close to that. I'm going to say 95. It's got to be around that sort of time.
Keeping it close.
Yeah.
I can reveal that Batman and Robin came out in 1997. So, Rick, you were 3 out. Matt, you were 2 out. So close on the first one. We switch over now. So Matt guesses first, then it goes back to you, Rick. Big one, Matt. Another big one. Carry On Camping. Carry On Camping. What was the year? It came out today, but on what year? Who knows? Well, I know. It's written down here.
1973.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It? You can pick the same year. It's perfectly sensible to do. Yeah.
Go on, I'll say 75, but I was going to say 73 as well.
Say 70 if you want to say 73. It's not a problem. If you want to.
What are you going for?
I think it's a later one.
I'll say 75, but I think it's earlier than that.
Okay. I can reveal Carry On Camping came out in 1969.
No way.
You're +6 on that one. So you go up to +9. Matt, you were +4, so you're on +6. There's only 3 in it. Still tight at this stage. We move back to you, Rick.
Okay.
3 to go. Oh, another belter here. You would love this film as well.
Oh, no.
Karate Kid 2.
Karate Kid 2.
What a film. What a film.
Right. It's so difficult, that time period. I'm going to say 87.
Matt, have you heard of the film?
Yes. Love that film. I'm going to say 86 is what I was thinking.
A great year, Matt.
I think the
Great year.
first one was about 84, is my reasoning. It was around then. So probably a couple of years
Makes
after.
sense.
Okay, I can reveal Karate Kid 2 was released on this date in 1986. Direct hit for Matt. And a great year. A great year. I don't know why. I don't know if someone was
Why?
born that year, but whatever. So you move. You're only one out, Rick. So you move on to +10. Matt, you stay on +6. We flip back to you, Matt. Can you believe all these films that I've mentioned so far, all on the same date as well, just different years? Wait for this one. Jaws.
Oh my god.
Same date.
I'm
Not
going first.
You're first on this one, Matt.
Yeah. I think that is 1977.
Okay.
I thought it was before that, but I'm probably completely wrong.
Go your gut, Rick. Whatever you feel.
Yeah. Whatever came in your head first.
Don't let Matt's guesses disturb what you're thinking.
No, I've lost consistently this game for many weeks. Yeah, so
you'd have to be like 15 years out to lose today. I'm going to say, so I'm going to go. I have to go the other direction. I'll say 74, but I think I've lost again.
In the comments, we got 73, 75, and 79. So there's quite a variation in this one.
I didn't see the comments. I should have had it.
Yeah.
They're all Googling. Anyway.
74, did I say? I think.
You said 74. I can reveal Jaws was released in 1975. So one out, Rick, again.
Well done.
So you move on to +11. Matt, you were 2 out, so you move on to +8. So only 3.
All to play for still.
Matt is currently leading, which means he goes first, because then you'll know, Rick, you need to be 4 either side of whatever Matt guesses to win. The film, Matt, I always end on a bit of a doozy because it's one that no one really is aware of. But annoyingly, today there was loads of good films. So this is probably the best of them all. Matt, the film. Hollow Man 2. Best of them all. What was the year?
Oh my god, they made it 2.
Hollow Man 2. Oh. 1997. I just have no idea.
Have you seen the first one, Matt?
No, I've not seen either of them.
I have seen the first. Kevin Bacon. No.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon?
Kevin Bacon? Wow.
Kevin Bacon? The first one?
I'll have to check that out.
I've seen Hollow Man. I'm trying to think. It just depends how long afterwards they made it. What did you say? 92?
I said 97.
So you've either got to go.
Guess.
So you've either
no
got to
idea.
go 1993 or 2001 to win.
There are some numbers in the comments that I don't know whether you want to look at or not.
And it was Kevin Bacon as well.
I'm going to say it's one of those films that because it was so good, they didn't want to rush the part 2, and so I'm saying that they went.
10 years
2001, is that the earliest?
That was the 4 the other way, yeah.
All right, let's go 2002, and then
okay,
2002.
I can reveal that Hollow Man 2, the classic as it is now, was released in 2006, which means you were 4 out. Rick, so you're on +15. Matt, you were 9 out, so you go on to +17. And the winner of this week's show is Rick English.
That's so undeserved. I'm so embarrassed about that.
You should be embarrassed, Matt. That was awesome. And that was this week's anniversary spread. Thank you for playing Rick English. We are going to get a league table together of some sorts with all the guest scores against Matt's scores that he's had, so everyone will be able to see it. But well, that brings us to the end. I know we've kind of overrun a bit this week, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Rick. And I want to say what's coming up, but I've seen some of the films you've got coming up. You've got new Mission Impossible coming up. You've got I saw the trailer for it today. Craven the Hunter. I think you're in that or in some form of that. And Secret Invasion, which is going to be on Disney.
Secret Invasion was a great.
Buzzing for
great
that.
experience.
All about the
I think
Marvel.
that's out tonight, is it, or tomorrow? Secret Invasion.
I know it's out soon, so I will be watching it.
Yeah, and then obviously the Flash is in cinemas at the moment.
Yes,
as well,
I saw you was in that as well.
I don't know if you've seen it, but I
Not
saw
yet.
it at the cast and crew, and I really liked it. Honestly, some people don't like superhero movies, but I thought it was a good, entertaining movie, and well worth a watch. But yeah, all that stuff is coming up, so hopefully we can keep going.
And where can our listeners and our viewers find you and see your work and things like that, Rick?
I tend to use Instagram more than anything else. So at Rick Stunts, it's RICKSTUNTS is the best place to find me. And I'll try and put as much kind of stuff that people haven't seen before and behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff as I can, on there. And yeah. So yeah, that's the best place to find me. I'll drop me a message or anything if anyone wants to get in touch. I know we didn't have a chance to answer everybody's questions, but yeah, I'll definitely jump on another time. If you guys come back, and then just drop me a message and we'll do it again. It's been fun.
Brilliant. Well, listen, stick around, Rick. We'll say goodbye to you once the show's gone off air to say goodbye properly. But thank you to everyone who has joined us tonight. If you are watching on the rewind, as we said, get in touch with Rick. Go and follow his Instagram page as well. And check out his stuff. But until next week, which will be the penultimate episode of season 13, thank you for joining us. Matt, have you got anything else to say? Or
just all the links Rick, I put all the links in the description of all the audio streaming and the video, so they'll be able to find you on there as well.
Great.
Amazing. See you next time.
Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite service. Past and future episodes can be found on all major streaming platforms, including Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, and YouTube. You can also contact James and Matt via Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. They will return in the next This Week in Metropolis.